So why does it need to be to be uploaded on YouTube if it's on Facebook already? Just platform. Okay.
And it's also uploaded to news, abs-news.com.
So it's there already. Really? Nandiyan na pala sa Facebook. Sabi mo wala pa.
We do it
Sa
live.
Facebook. Ha? Hindi, live and also tabunan lang. Pero dun, pag i-google mo,
Not on a playlist.
not on a playlist.
They have to scroll up and look for it.
Okay. Maybe, sino yung pero na lang, gawin niyang easier to access it so that we can also promote it in all LGUs, DepEd, in fact, everyone should be.
USB-C ba
There's so
siya?
much learning.
Problema ko kasi nito
At
USB.
pwede niyo i-share Karina Lopez ng pangalan niya, ng
Yung
knowledge,
dulo, USB.
lahat. Naghanap siya sa akin ng content eh. Minsan magpapatulong for for the other day. Sige.
Ito talaga. May USB-C ka?
Convert.
Oh my God, I love you. I love you.
Ang subject matter are gamabas again.
Magkano
Are they
to?
gamabas?
Saan ka
Yes, ma'am,
nabili?
and Schools of Living
Schools of Living
Traditions,
Tradition.
3
Yes.
and 3 Gamabas.
Oh.
So these are best of culture.
Hindi kasi.
Well, first of all,
USB-C.
for those who have not
USB-C
watched,
din. Oh,
for those who have not watched Dayaw,
pwede tayo.
I think, Nadja, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the only existing culture,
Hindi,
arts
pasaksak ko
and
lang
culture,
Thank you.
what is it? Documentary magazine? What is it? Documentary. On
Ano sinasabi ko sa
Philippine
kanila?
television and online, right? From the Philippines. There could be other culture documentaries from other countries. So it's the only one that we know. And so I'm very grateful to NCCA that they continue to support my advocacy, and I'm grateful to ANC for being the platform to air this, and for the very committed staff who've been helping us. And I just realized and it's government funded, aired on private station, replayed many times, and it's one show that
As ano siya, 25
many
watts lang siya.
people
Kung
have
ito
told
lang,
me,
45
oh,
watts.
we keep on watching, and then
Pwede
they,
available
we
siya.
saw
So,
this, we saw that,
Pero
from the
pag 45
provinces,
watts,
they email, they write, they
ang problema
text,
pag ang power
uh,
bank, hindi 45 watts.
and those who are seniors or elderly would ask for, wala ka bang CD? Hindi, CD pa ang tinatanong, wala ka bang CD? Sure, buti Umatic ang hiningi ko, no? Pero ganun. Kaya gusto ko sabihin, give me na all the online platform. But perhaps those asking me for CDs, and the others, would you believe, they even rush home to watch TV. Meron pa palang ganun. So, oo. Yung mga lumang style na uuwi para panood. Tapos, ay, sayang, na-miss ko yung Dayaw mo. Ay, Tita Ethel is here. Halika, let's go, let's go. Tita Ethel, hindi ko kayo nabahi. Ayan pala.
Alright, let's start. Good afternoon, everybody. Celebration of the country's culture, silently and passionately protect our national identity by preserving our traditions and passing them on to the younger generations. Now, today we would like to acknowledge the presence of our guests. First up, we have ABS-CBN News Channel Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Nadia Trinidad. We also have Roberto Pilares. He's ANC's Head of Business Operations. And of course, we have Deputy Speaker and Antique Congresswoman Loren Legarda, an advocate of Philippine arts and culture promotion and a champion of the preservation of tangible and intangible heritage. We'd like to also acknowledge the presence of the representatives from the National Commission for Culture and the Arts and from the Office of Deputy Speaker Legarda. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So right now, we would like to introduce again Deputy Speaker and Congresswoman Loren Legarda. Deputy Speaker and Antique Congresswoman Loren Legarda has long been an advocate of cultural preservation. She has supported schools of living traditions, sponsored the documentation of indigenous knowledge and traditional practices, and organized regional assemblies that served as avenues for dialogues between the IPs and various sectors of society. Revive the age-old tradition of weaving, creating the country's first permanent textile gallery, Hibla ng Lahing Filipino, at the National Museum, leading the launch of the Hibla Pavilion of Textiles and Weaves of the Philippines, which displayed different weaving traditions, and supporting the National Museum's lecture series on Philippine traditional textiles and indigenous knowledge. Senator Legarda also initiated the creation of the museum's Baybayin Gallery. Advocacy on environmental protection has earned her global recognition as well. She is named as among the global leaders for tomorrow by the World Economic Forum, a laureate and the Global 500 Roll of Honor in the UN Environment Program and the UN ISDR Global Champion for Resilience. In recognizing her commitment to the fight against climate change and to the promotion of culture and heritage, the French government bestowed upon Legarda the title of Knight in the French National Order of the Legion of Honor, while the Italian government awarded her with was also through her vision and leadership that the Philippines is one of the most prestigious art exhibitions in the world, and the country successfully returned to the 2015 Art Biennale, 51 years after its first participation all the way back in 1964, and participated for the first time in the 2016 Architecture Biennale. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the host of Dayaw TV, please welcome Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda.
Okay, I'm supposed to speak. Okay, so good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for coming here to be able to know more about Dayaw, the television show, which has been on the air for 40 years. I'll restate what I said earlier. I'm grateful to the National Commission on Culture and Arts for supporting my advocacy of documenting intangible and tangible heritage of our country. For collaborating with CA and my office for a continued partnership, and the dedicated staff who in the beginning may have not known the importance of tangible and intangible culture, but now people like Tony and Lara, they've really embraced it as part of their life. And so I hope that Dayaw will continue to be aired, and in fact the 215 episodes can be seen repeatedly, and I am sure that all Filipinos, agencies of government can really learn from this. Are all the raw materials, I think like a producer, are all the raw materials stored or archived? Because going to Tawi-Tawi, going to the remote areas, when you cross rivers and mountains to document, and never mind the physical tiredness, but the gamaba or the Manlilika ng Bayan awardees who have since passed on to the next life can no longer be interviewed again. And how much time do we have? We only have 30 minutes, but we've done hours and hours of documentation of the Filipino people. And I hope and I know that ABS has a good archiving library. Si Dory pa ba ang librarian dito? Si Dory nung panahon namin. Kasi ganyan na din ako nung 86 when I was executive producer of Pep Talk. And Tita Chris and Tita Ethel would know. I mean, among all of you, I think silang dalawang alam. I would always ask, ang Pep Talk, grabe ang documentation, ha? Maakit kami ng bundok. Ang inside story, ha? Yung mga scoop at yung mga... So, lahat ba ng raw? Yan ang tanong ko. Tinatago nyo na sa library natin. It used to be Dory, the ABS review, including the bloggers, including the millennials who are here, would be interested in Dayaw. And we'll never run out of episodes of topics because documenting all our living traditions is endless. And we're just talking about living traditions. What about languages? What about, there's so much. Rituals, all of that. So let's, maybe Naja, would you like to sit with me? Naja, would you like to sit with me? And who's representing the Okay. Hi.
we'd like to also acknowledge the presence of Ms. Susan Dial, Chief of Admin and Finance Division of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts.
Differently from the show. Okay? Susan Dayaw did not name the show Dayaw after her, okay?
Good afternoon po, everyone. D-A-Y-A-O po yung aking pangalan. Anyway, siyempre, ano to? It's, I would like to call the attention of Rene. You know Rene, here. Sorry po, ma'am, for that. Okay? She's attending another
You're more important. You're the finance.
iPad ba to?
there's another project.
Oo nga pala,
We have the
siya.
Buhay na Buhay also is
Anong
being
tablet
now
sa amin?
done in Quezon.
Huawei. Oh, talaga? More.
And I'm so happy also to be part of this
Ano siyang
because
desktop talaga?
I've been part of the public bidding for this project. So
I mean-
I've been with
Ay, parang desktop.
the
I mean,
group
laptop
that's been
siya.
attending that. And right now we are going to see
Magkano?
the fusion, no? Coming to read, no?
Tablet.
So since as Daya celebrates the indigenous,
Pero hindi
since
naman siya
inception in 2015, this is a brainchild of our dear Senator
More on
Loren
ano na
Legarda
talaga,
and
no?
former
Pang
Chairman,
Hindi siya yung
NCCA
pang-
Chairman Felipe De Leon Jr. This continues to be our platform for bringing our indigenous people's knowledge and pride closer to our Filipino viewers and even locally and abroad. We at the NCCA believe Filipinos are all indigenous in some respect. So while our culture is largely a product of exchange, our essence, our core stays true to what is katutubo or indigenous to us. And this is very core in what we highlight in this Dialogue series, where we'll be able to see and appreciate how our indigenous communities continue to protect and safeguard our traditions. This were passed on to them and safeguard our traditions. This were passed on to them from their forebears, and these very traditions make up the DNA of our culture, the thread that binds us no matter how diverse we are. Anyway, our dear Senator already mentioned what to expect from the season, but this project was also done through the leadership of our chairman, National Artist Virgilio S. Almario, and with the office of the Honorable Senator. And we are very proud to feature also the vessels of our indigenous culture. So including individuals and institutions that serve as a repository of the knowledge, beliefs, and skills that are transferred to the younger generation in order to ensure the continuity of tradition and foster stronger identity of peoples in the communities. We'll visit the women weavers who are recently awarded the National Living Treasure Awards. It's undertaken by the NCCA. These are women their awards. It's undertaken by the NCCA. These are women who, through their art, are able to tie together the past and the present. So we also look into the schools of living traditions. This has been a project of the National Commission since the early 90s. And this is focused on safeguarding also the transfer of skills in traditional arts and crafts, performing ritual and practices to the indigenous youths in the different communities. So we need this vessel to express our most heartfelt gratitude also to the office of Senator Legarda for making the wheels spin for this project. Because without her undying support to the culture sector, especially to these cultural communities, we will not have this dial airing anytime soon. So we would also like to thank the ANC for bringing this program to a wider audience through their network. And we are grateful that we have steadfast partners in the media industry who are working with us in promoting and streaming Filipino arts and culture in the community and in the whole world. And as the NCC continues its commitment to bring culture to the stream of consciousness of the Filipino through this dialogue project, and to many other programs of the Commission directed to educate and provide relevant shows for Filipino viewers, we'd like to welcome everyone also to watch out for this season of Tayo. So maraming
We'd like to give you a snippet into the latest season of Dial. Please watch this.
areas where the past is a priority of the present and a challenge of the future. Our knowledge, our pride.
I think that deserves a round of applause, yes? All right, and with that, we'd like to open the floor to questions from the audience, but I'll start for Ms. Nadia as well. How does Dial fit into ANC's overall brand?
So for the last 2 years, ANC has branded itself as the go-to channel for anything and everything about the Philippines to non-Filipinos living overseas. So we've established an international audience, and this fits very well with that strategy, with our strategy, because as you know, we are educating our countrymen about their culture, and now this is a chance to actually inform the rest of the world about it.
All right, and to Deputy Speaker, of course, Dial has ushered in a renewed interest in Filipinos for our cultural heritage. What other hopes do you have for this program? I'm sure it's a long list.
Well, this program should be immortalized and it documents our national living treasures. It documents our intangible and tangible heritage. It documents our cuisine. It documents our languages. It documents our artisans. It documents our rituals. It documents even our mountains, our rivers, and our lakes. It documents our scripts and our writing. It documents our architecture of our indigenous people. It documents the struggles, the pains, the beauty, the nature, the vastness, the wealth, the richness of our culture. So this is a never-ending documentation of what the Philippines is all about. It's really a gift to the Filipino people. And so I am certain that this will go beyond this generation and ours and the coming generations. And we are privileged as a partner, which I hope documents it and keeps all the raw materials on archive. We're fortunate that there is a viewership. The fact that it's still airing and that there's continued support from government. So when former Chair Felipe De Leon, Chair Jun and I talked about it, because the word Dayaw emanates from a Dayaw program of NCCA, right? You have a Dayaw festival every year. But it's a festival, but to document everything, look at Philippine culture and traditions. And so that's how it was born. So that's my long answer to your brief question.
That's all right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Let's now go to Media Relations Manager Aaron Domingo, who is standing by with a few questions from the press. Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you, Lexi. Our first question will come from the Dean of Entertainment Journalists, Madam.
Gusto kong malaman, how do you...
Ay, sorry. Ano na ako pag Tita Ethel excited. Sa mga hindi nakakaalam, kami po ni Tita Ethel, pep talk pa lang, nandiyan na siya. Walang may alam na ng pep talk sa inyo. 1986. Sino ang nanood na ng pep talk noong 1986 maliban kay Crispina Belen at kay reporters nag-cover o maski mga nandito? Wala. Kino-cover na nila ako noon. So, I'm disappointed nobody knows pep talk. Oh, so why don't you put it online? I allow you. I mean, I was like a producer and the host. Put it there. Because pep talk is as rich as Dayaw. And we cross rivers to get stories. See? So, I haven't answered the question. Tawag kita ito. Okay. So, tapos nandiyan si Ricky Lo, si Ethel Ramos, Crispina Belen, Aisa Red, si sa Bulletin, Star, Malaya, si Mario Bautista, Mario Hernando, memoriado ko. Ako nagka-type. Ako nagkakabit ng mga pangalan. Oh, ganyan tayo. Anyway, So what was the question? Sorry.
Mga millennials na.
Millennials. You know, okay. Millennials are interested in everything that's happening. And this is something new to them because obviously all of us were not born when the indigenous peoples had their culture. So I guess. And the fact that we receive a lot of favorable feedback online means we're being watched by people from all walks of life and all generations. And I think if you upload the shows of the 80s, well, I'm only responsible for my shows, Pep Talk and Inside. Millennials will enjoy. When I lectured in the ABS-CBN, is this university, natutuwa ako, the reporters, not so young, 30s, 40s, they were young, there were new ones, there were those, and they were asking me about my interview, let's say, with Nelson Mandela. So they would search it online. My hair was so short, that was in the 90s. That's not Dayaw, it's not Pep Talk, it was Inside Story. And then I had to relate to them how I got the exclusive interview with the President of South Africa when he came to the Philippines. So I am certain from a millennial who's covering or who's present here. You said you were 1 year old. Are you with the media? Blogger. Ayan. What is your name, please? Have you seen Dayaw? Have you watched it?
Snippets of it.
Snippets, okay. If you don't like it, you can say so. With me, I'll accept anything. I just want to know, answer the question of Tita Ethel. What do you think of Dayaw? And if you don't think about it in any way, that's fine. I just really want to know because I cannot answer for the millennials.
I think
Right.
the appeal would be, well, in what they will see. I mean,
Are you considered a millennial? You're still a
I
millennial?
am.
Okay, good. Okay. So it's for the students and for millennials alike, right?
I mean, particularly that market, I think the students.
And when you say students, it's millions of them. Yes, that's great. So what else? Pag estudyante lang ba? Hindi ka na estudyante, ibig sabihin ayaw mo?
No, even in among my age bracket, the 20s and 30s, because a lot of people are into traveling now. I mean, entails a lot. So I think
Oh, look at Tony. Yun ang dapat interview ng bakang to eh. Si Tony Aguilar. Ilan ang ilog at karagatan ang tinawid at ilang bundok ang inaakyat. Sino ang ating magagaling mga cameraman? Amazing. They are the heroes behind the show. I could not do it anymore now. I used to do it when I was in Pep Talk Inside Story, but when I retired from ABS in 98, I stopped doing it. But they're able to do it now. In the Senate office, we would preview it and edit it off. So, thank you very much for that. So it's for students. My answer to your question, I have to consult a millennial because I don't want to be presumptuous. Is it's educational, and education spans. It is not just for students; it's for everybody. And second, because people love to travel, they love to trek, they love to travel where it's difficult, expensive, or unreachable. So Dayaw is for everybody. And for those who can't cross rivers or climb mountains or meet the Iraynon Bukidnon or the Mangyans or the Magtisalog or the Ivatans or the, I can go on and on, then here you come up close and personal with the 15 million Filipinos who are in the
Tanong ulit ako sa inyo. Considering how much you value environment.
Thank you for that. Well, I've been an elected official since 1998, Tita Ethel. And I like the work. Perhaps if I did not become a senator for 18 years, would we have the 8 environmental laws that I authored? Maybe someone else would have authored it, legislation, from the Ecological Solid Waste Management Law to the Climate Change Act to the People's Survival Fund, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Renewable Energy Law, the Educational Environment Education Act. So why am I not the DNR Secretary? At some point, it was pitched to me. I can't recall which president, etc. Just like other cabinet posts were pitched. But perhaps I was meant to be in the legislature 18 years in the Senate and now in the House, to only environment, not only, I mean, to just one sphere. I value environment, it's my life. But I also do much work in foreign relations, for example. I do much work in finance as well. I do work in agriculture. I do work in education. I'm in the military as well. So perhaps because my interest is so broad, being a policymaker perhaps would suit me best. But you know, if I was DNR secretary, because I kept correct all the mistakes of Gina, I miss her now after what you've asked, because I was very strongly supportive, and more than supportive, minaniubra ko sana yung kanyang pagka-confirm sa CA. I mean, maniubra is not the word, but how we tried to get that. So I miss Gina when you mentioned that. Not for me, because I'm the lawmaker and I want to see the oversight of laws that I have authored with a partner, DNR secretary. And Gina was really the perfect partner. As passionate, with the same way of thinking. Yeah, now I miss her so much.
Thank you, Manay. Our next question will come from Bot Gloriosa of the Philippine Star.
Hi, good afternoon. Miss Loren, based on the video clips, obviously the children of tribal groups embrace their culture. How do you think these bearers of culture pass on their skills and knowledge to their children?
Great question. Mentoring and all our Gamaba awardees or the Malilikan ng Bayan awardees are called such and awarded because they pass on what they know. I hope that we will find it in our hearts to be Gamabas, and I hope that our indigenous communities would have more of these people who would pass on the age-old tradition of weaving, the age-old tradition of doing crafts. But not just that, but even in the spoken language, in the written form, also in terms of the ritual. So your question is, how do we ensure that the young actually learn what their forebears know? That's why we're documenting it. That's why, apart from documenting or for online, for the digital media, but also empowering, giving assistance, giving financial assistance, technical assistance to communities so that they could have the tools, the resources to teach their children and their communities what they know before they pass on to the next life. So dayaw and documentation on television and online is just really a speck in the, let's say, this USB ang laman nito. This is the USB of our shows and we're all giving it to you. This is, for example, a hard copy of Everyday Culture, a book that I also supported, I cost to publish with Karina Bolasco, which are, again, documentation of schools of living tradition, but very limited because how much can you put in a book? But aside from documenting it on USB, TV, we have Riera to Autonomous Region. As I speak now, NCCA and its NGO partners actually are teaching, passing on, and mentoring traditions of our indigenous people. So television is just one avenue. Uploading it online is just, we've sustained that. And I'm proud to say, when we started Dayaw, I innovated on the national budget. NCCA used to be a well-meaning agency with the least budget. But now, we started it in 2015, they have more than they can chew, right? Or can you chew it? You can. Yeah. So they're supported. Maybe Susan can explain ano ba yung, kasi hindi naman, let's say, what's an ongoing SLT program? Or even if it's not SLT, what are the outreach programs of the NCCA that can pass on one generation to the other?
Actually, the NCCA has been supporting the schools of living traditions nationwide. So we have over, as far as I can remember, over 500 existing schools of living traditions from north to south, which are very successful. So we support them. We also the stipend of this Gawad sa Malilikan ng Bayan Award is also the stipend form part of also the training that help them to transfer also this knowledge to the younger generations. So aside from that, we usually allot a big chunk of our competitive grants budget to support projects of similar nature, which supports also from dance to the craft, also providing assistance in the transfer of this knowledge to the younger generation. So it's basically, sabi nga ni Ma'am, it's this aspect talaga of supporting this indigenous culture na hindi po siya mawala. So apart from documentation, we also, kasi that is part of the grant. So they have to document, they have to transfer, they have to have graduates in this SLT. So you can go to Pagaligan in the Lakeside CCA and so with this master craftsman that we provide assistance so that you can see to it that this traditional culture will not just pass away without transferring to the younger generation.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So our role is not just to document. The more important role is to propagate, sustain, and conserve. Para maski mawala na tayong lahat, in 20, 50 years, nandyan pa rin sila at ang kanilang
Or did you pass a law regarding that subject or that matter about our culture and preserving our culture and heritage?
The Heritage Act, does the Heritage Act cover it? Heritage Act is more for structures, but perhaps the Heritage Act is part of it, but it's not indigenous culture, no? Let me see. I filed a bill for the creation of, we call it folk art museums. I changed the term, not to folk art museums, I forget the title of the bill, for mandating every local government to set up traditional, I think I called it in my lower house bill, traditional arts museum in every locality, in every local government. And second, ito pa lang, since I chaired the budget 4 years ago, we put funding in cultural mapping. What is cultural mapping? We have geographical maps. How do you map culture? You go to a place, they speak, what they eat, what they wear, where the mga katutubo hanggang kinaugalian. And so, cultural mapping is mandatory in DepEd, and the teachers are taught how to be cultural mappers. And the NCCA is also doing cultural mandating that LGUs must do cultural mapping in their areas.
And last na lang po.
Hindi, maganda matanong mo, okay lang. Hindi pa skinny last.
With the show now on the 7th season, what for you is the best and toughest parts of working on that kind of show?
You know, I think the challenge of the team is really the crossing mountains and rivers and oceans.
Ay po, posible po bang ipalabas sa Netflix or isubmit sa Netflix ang Dayaw?
Right now, I'm told that Dayaw is available, it is app form. It's our OTT platform. As for it being on Netflix, right now, I don't think it's a possibility because we have that platform.
So, it opens you to an entirely new and bigger audience. Like, I watch documentaries on Netflix and I noticed na and now that I'm watching some of the things dito sa Dayaw, parang pareho lang eh. It's just that sa Netflix parang I think if, kung pwede, you're gonna reach an entirely new.
You have your Netflix here, na? That's your version of Netflix, right? For your content, yes. So. But in the contract, I was checking with NCCA. It's the copyright. I think it's owned by government. NCCA. Or baka joint. I will find out how it can, without violating the contract of NCCA and ANC.
Second question ko, kanina po, show, and parang I sense a bit of frustration na not enough people are watching it, not enough, it's not reaching and the audience it deserves. Did I sense that correctly?
Well, I'm not sure because I don't see ratings anymore. Nung panahon namin, we would look at ratings. How do you monitor now? May ratings ba ang ANC? Wala eh. I'm not sure eh. So, well, first because we're an ANC. Number two, yung, kasi ang milyo ko, hindi ko na malalaman. So, not know. I'm not frustrated that it's not viewed as much because I'm not even sure how much it is viewed. All I know is that there's been such great favorable feedback. But you're correct, it could be known better. Maybe put it in IG stories, maybe it's a bigger platform. I'm not sure. I'm not with the generation that our blogger is from. Perhaps you could help us. We could sit down between NCCA and ABS, center briefer content on other platforms that could reach a wider audience. That's for the creatives to decide.
Or how about this thought that many young people would go out of their way to understand lyrics of K-pop songs, and they would even study Korean and dress up like Koreans, but not just to pinpoint Koreans, and yet few people are interested in culture as much as we should.
We just perhaps should have more platform to air it, to show it, and promote it more. I didn't even know. Nasa Facebook pa lang. Nasa YouTube pa lang. So, perhaps the ANC department handling the digital platform could get more involved. I don't know if that's part of your contract. It should. Yeah, we can work it out. Kasi it's universal and it's timeless. The first episode on 2015 can be viewed now. It was 4 years ago. Way beyond us, it's still going to be relevant. Ang mag-iiba lang yung, wala, yung tsura ko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jojo. Our next question will come from another social media influencer reaching 7 million views. No other than Alan Sangkon of Stars Photo.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
7 million? Wow!
Thank you, ma'am.
7 million followers?
View.
Wow, 7 million views. What do you write? 7 million views, ang galing.
It's more on showbiz and
Galing.
entertainment.
O, hanapan mo na showbiz spectro pagka mag-7 million views.
Sige, ma'am, in related with showbiz,
Ang galing naman.
if you given a chance to na ipalabas po yung life nyo on television or in maalala mo kaya on a movie, sino pong mga showbiz personality that you want to portray your character or yung role po ninyo? Please, para may
Paano hindi ako handa? Sino? Estelle, i-brief ko. Kasi mga artista, hindi ko alam. Wala na nga akong television sa bahay. Hindi ba ako nanonood ng TV? So, sino nga ba? Ayoko mag-invento. I don't want to invent. I don't know. I don't want to lie. So, I have to think about the answer to your question.
you get back to me, ma'am, soon.
No, kasi I don't watch television anymore and I may not be updated with entertainment. So I don't want to answer just for the sake. I know Sarah. Yeah, of course.
You want Sarah, ma'am?
Why not Sarah Geronimo? Oh, sige, I'm prompted by Estelle. Yeah. Tsaka, yeah.
And my second question, ma'am, what to expect on the 7th season of Dayaw? And if given a chance po to choose a topic or you want to na i-relate dun sa inyong Dayaw show, ano po yung gusto niyo pa pong ipalabas?
Ayan. Ito, yan ito. The topic for season 7 are bearers of culture. Ito yung mga tinatawag na living tradition. Hindi to DepEd school. These are not, could be in a cave, it could be in a rural area with no walls. But these are communities that have tradition, and there are mentors, culture bearers, who teach the communities. So yan ang aming i-feature. So itong mga schools of living tradition, episode 1, Dumagat. Lapit lang sa Bulacan. Viewers will meet the Dumagats of Bulacan, and then the youths are taught about the language of leaves. So interesting. And the deeper aspects of music and dance. So we take the Dumagats for granted, and they're just here sa Museo de Monte, nearby, with their housing projects, etc. It will be interesting to see this. You know, the atis are everywhere. The Aitas of Zambales. My first episode in Pep Talk in 86 are the Aitas of Zambales. But these are the atis of Negros Oc. So, the atis, or Aitas as we call them in Luzon, as you know, they may be of the same indigenous group, but they're called differently in different languages, in different island groups. So, ang kanilang weaving, ang livelihood. Episode 3, oh, how interesting. The farthest school, Balut Island. Oh, nagpunta sila. Tumawid ng ilang oras. 8 hours by boat. Tony ko dapat magkwento eh. Sino ang nasa Balut Island? Next time ang aking press con sa Balut Island. Yeah. Ang mga belaan at yung sangir tradition in performing arts. So hindi lang weaving ito, mat weaving, pati pagluto nila, no? Culinary, masarap. Interesting. Okay. So, she's also a healer and a medium. And we have Yabing Dulo from South Cot, and the Yakan traditional artist Uwang Ahadas and weaver Ambalang Ausalin of Basilan. So we're featuring the Gamaba awardees. You know, I'd like to take all of you. This won't be a press con. I'll just take you around the Gamaba Gallery, which I helped. I didn't curate it. It was Dr. Ana Labrador of the National Baybayin, the first Philippine script. And then we have the Gamaba Gallery in the National Museum. I'd like to take all of you there and do Facebook Live and do a blog, whichever. And there in the middle of the museum, and you see the Gamabas come to life. Not that it's nice that we have a press con here, but perhaps next time, our next, before Christmas, or in January, after the Christmas season, di ba ang ganda? Then we can do live 4, 5, 6, 6 na yun. So, hindi ba interesting? You go to the farthest island, Balut, and you taste their food via the video you watch. Then you have the Gamabas I mentioned. You don't just see their weaves, you also see how they live. And then the Dumagats were just nearby. And remember, this is just season 7. Remember, seasons 1 to 6 of 6 shows each that we've shown. And for those of you, and many of you have not watched it, so I urge where can we find it? Facebook and YouTube, and promote it perhaps. So we need you. I want Dial to be seen 7 million times. 7 million? By 7 million viewers. I need you. Ang galing mo. Oh, perhaps you're 10 million. Millennial ka eh. Ilan?
I'm not sure now.
Yeah. Sino pa yan? Tuturuan nyo kami. Kasi panahon ako ng, tapos Jing Reyes, panahon ako ng beta kami. Kasi Jing, where are you? I didn't acknowledge her. Why didn't you tell me? She's been sitting here. Panahon kami ng beta kami. Kaya hindi kami 7 million. Opo, when I was with Jing, tama, we were the most awarded and the highest rating. Ang ratings kasi namin, papel hard copy pa. Uy, kami ni Angelo de Jing, highest rating tayo. World Tonight, unbeatable. Yabang namin ang network naman kinaman. When I left ABS in 98, commercials. Highest rating newscast.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tagal na yun. Wala kaming 7 million views. Tutulungan mo ako?
Yeah, we're looking forward to that, ma'am. Thank you po. Congratulations.
Yeah, tutulungan tayo din ng Alan and ng ating mga
Ito na yung
vlogger friends. Yeah. Okay, our next question will come from Edwin Salian of Daily Tribune.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. The way you passionately talk about Dio, I can imagine that you have
Nandyan lahat sa library. So, anong encounters ko doon now? I've always been as passionate and as interested into their culture. And, as you know, oh, look at them. They were Tiboli, Belaan. Lake Cebu, Tiboli. Okay, Tiboli, Belaan.
Staying on this attire since 90s pa.
Very good. Very good, very good. So, matagal na rin. Ngayon, uso, di ba? Ang dami. I've been wearing it since... Estelle, when did you join me? What year? 96. I was already wearing it, right? In the 80s, maybe 70s. Wala pa nun mga... what do you call it? Bazaars? Or pop-ups? I was wearing it already in 70s and 80s. And I would go to the hinterlands, to the weaving center, for them to show me abacais taken and woven. I remember, not necessarily indigenous na storya. I think I went to a remote barangay in Albay, and I went up a hill to see how one weaver was weaving abaca. Now, you kwento about indigenous people. I think, I remember, the Mangyans of Mindoro. Where was Buwan released? Si Kubait, Mansalay. Ako sumagot ng tanong ko. Oriental Mindoro. Okay. Clothes for learning. They were my bodyguards when I rescued Noel Buwan, who was a lieutenant colonel, who was captured by the CPP, NPA, NDF. I was already a first-term senator. And I was asked by the NDF to head the humanitarian mission to rescue him. And so, the Mangyans accompanied me. Siyempre, dapat may dalang bag, may dalang Salay, Oriental, Mindoro. Silang kasama ko, they were so fast and agile. That was that's in my 40s at the time. Huh? 99, kinover mo ko. You're in the newsroom. Yan, saan mga litrato? Alam mo, they were like, they were gliding. And I was in a brook, isang ilog na puro bato-bato. Hindi ako trekker. Although I was young that time, I was 39 years old. Ang babait nila. And they were with me hanggang sa loob when I met the captors of Noel Buwan. That was 20 years ago. Yeah. So, your question is, how do I interact? What are my interactions with them? From loving their weaves and their beadwork and going to remote weaving centers, I used to go, up to now, to the lakeshore weaving centers of Atibolis and Lake Cebu, the dream weavers. I